Chapter 2377. I'm your great-aunt worryless Yin Hung quickly calmed himself down and confidently stared at the girl before him. He mockingly ridiculed, Miss E, I did capture someone, but the person I captured is the son of worryless Nye and my eldest brother, Nye Tangxiao. However, what does this have to do with you? If someone were to panic, it should be worryless Nye. You merely look similar to worryless Nye. You aren't that child's mother, so why are you this anxious? Don't tell me you really are worryless Nye? Yin Hung pressed, Miss Yunma, could it be you've been worryless Nye all along? You've impersonated the president's daughter. Worryless Nye was still too inexperienced. He originally thought she'd be tricky to handle and would contend with him in some manner. He didn't expect that the mere act of kidnapping Nye Tangxiao would be enough to rattle her and make her reveal herself. How could the dumbfounded crowd still remain clueless about the circumstances? Worryless Nye impersonated President Yi's daughter, Yunma, and Yin Heng abducted worryless Nye's son, causing worryless Nye to reveal her own identity in her panic. Qin Shiyuan clutched her mouth exaggeratedly, showing an expression of disbelief. Oh my God! Is it true? Worryless Nye actually impersonated the president's daughter, Missy Yunma? Following Qin Shiyuan's exclamation, other people started reacting. I was wondering why two completely different people could look so similar. She actually dared to impersonate even the president's daughter. Isn't she too gutsy? Does this woman want to die? Does she know what she's doing? Qin Shiyuan glanced at Yi Wanwan and murmured with feigned suspicion, but what's her objective for doing this? Someone immediately replied, a spy. She must be a spy sent by an evil cult. This woman had dubious connections with the Rose of Death previously. Now she infiltrated the Arbitration Council. She must have ulterior motives. Qin Shiyuan nodded as though a realization dawned on her. That's true. Why else would she impersonate the president's daughter and sneak her way in here? She must have ulterior motives. Thank goodness Yin Heng discovered her in time, or else the consequences would have been simply unimaginable. As Yin Heng listened to the accusations of the higher-ups around him, he revealed a satisfied smile. Finally, everything would end. The matter of worryless Nye impersonating the president's daughter was exposed, and the danger would be eliminated. Worryless Nye was done for. At the same time, Si Yihan, who had acted as a guarantor for her, was also done for. By abducting a little bastard, Yin Heng eradicated all of his obstacles in one go and also accomplished a meritorious deed. Yin Heng brazenly looked at Yi Wanwan. How about it, Missy? Am I correct? Oh, perhaps I should address you as Miss Worryless Nye now. Heh, you're wrong. Yi Wanwan chuckled lowly, her chuckle inexplicably sending shivers down listeners' backs. Yi Wanwan paused for a moment before enunciating her next words carefully. You're great. Worryless. Yeah. You, Yin Heng's expression darkened, and he promptly exclaimed frantically, you admitted it. You finally admit you impersonated Yunma. You impersonated President Yi's daughter. Worryless Nye, you're seriously too gutsy. You impersonated the daughter of the Arbitration Council's president and attempted to spy on confidential information and entangle yourself with an evil cult. Every single one of your deeds is punishable by death. Yi Wanwan impatiently picked at her ears before putting force to her foot and completely breaking one of his ribs. You have 3 seconds to release my baby. Otherwise, you'll see whether you or I die first. Chapter 2378. Her whole family includes me. A wretched scream escaped from Yin Heng from the intense pain. On the side, Vice President Qin Zong wore a pitying expression and advised in a heartfelt manner, Miss Worryless Nye, don't hurt nephew Yin. I implore you to surrender peacefully. Yi Wanwan ignored Qin Zong and started counting. 3. Upon seeing this woman completely ignore him, the Vice President, Qin Zong's expression looked terrible. You absolutely can't escape from your crimes now, but if you relent, perhaps you can strive for your family's survival still. 2. Yi Wanwan yelled. Yin Heng sensed the terrifying murderous aura from the woman before him and sweat drenched his forehead. This woman had gone mad. She really dared to kill him. Yin Heng suddenly discovered he was positioned on extremely dangerous forbidden ground. There was a great possibility Qin Zong wouldn't care about his survival. Yin Heng hastily said, "Worryless Nya, think carefully. If I die, your son also won't survive." The second Yin Heng said that, Yi Wanwan didn't shout, "One," and directly stomped on him again. The sound of another rib shattering. At this moment, a furious roar abruptly erupted from the entrance. "Yunma, stop." This low voice sent the whole room into a grim silence, and every pair of eyes simultaneously shot toward the entrance. Yi Lingjun arrived in a flurry. "Yunma, what are you doing?" Yin Heng released a sigh of relief when he saw Yi Lingjun, as though he'd seen his savior. "President, save me. This vixen impersonated your daughter." Qin Zong walked toward Yi Lingjun before explaining, "President, calm down. This woman isn't your daughter, Yunma. She's actually the second daughter of Yun City's Nya family, Worryless Nya." Qin Shiyuan piped in, "That's right, President. This woman admitted it herself just now. I think it's not only her. Her entire Nya family should be interrogated. It's very possible her whole family is related to an evil cult." Yi Lingjun coldly glanced at Qin Shiyuan, the pressure of a superior instantly flooding out. "Her whole family is related to an evil cult. Miss Qin, are you implying that I, the president, am also related to an evil cult?" Qin Shiyuan panicked and fretfully replied, "Why would you think that, President? That's not what I meant. I was talking about Worryless Nya's whole family." Yi Lingjun expressionlessly said, "I'm her father, so when you say her whole family, it naturally includes me." You're her father?" Qin Shiyuan thought Yi Lingjun still didn't understand the situation, so she quickly explained, "President, are you still confused? This woman isn't your beloved daughter, Yunma, she's Worryless Nya." Yin Heng abducted Worryless Nya's son, but Yunma came running here and demanding the child back, directly admitting she's Worryless Nya. With so many pairs of eyes watching, it's absolutely true. She is that lowly woman. Yi Lingjuan's face turned icy. "That's correct. Worryless Nya is my daughter." "Worryless Nya is the president's daughter?" A commotion swept through the room following Yi Lingjuan's words, and everyone's eyes shot open in shock. Qin Shiyuan's pupils contracted abruptly, and she stared incredulously at Yi Lingjun. Yin Heng's expression also changed. What did Yi Lingjun just say? Worryless Nya is his daughter? Has the president gone muddle-headed? At this moment, Medusa, who had followed Yi Lingjun, glanced at Yin Heng and Qin Zong before coldly asking, "Did you think the president would be so foolish that he'd mistake his own daughter?" Chapter 2379 acted out a whole play this. Everyone was dumbfounded, confused about everything going on. Medusa continued, "As everyone knows, the president has students covering the earth but only lacked a personal disciple. And the second Miss of Yun City's Nya family, Miss Worryless Nya, is the only personal disciple that Sir President accepted. She's my little junior sister. Little junior sister was injured earlier and was stranded in China, thus losing contact with Master for many years. They only reunited recently. What? Worryless Nya is the president's long-lost personal disciple. Shit. No one expected Worryless Nya to possess this alternate identity. Medusa said, "Worryless Nya and my master are close like father and daughter, so how could she be a spy? If she wanted to spy on the Arbitration Council's secrets, would she have had to go about it so complicatedly?" Nobody could refute Medusa. Since she's the president's personal disciple, how did she become the president's daughter? Don't tell me she's the illegitimate daughter of President and Madame Nya? Qin Shiyuan questioned from the side. Medusa's expression chilled. Nonsense. How could you rashly spout this kind of slander? This kind of matter absolutely couldn't occur based on Yi Lingjuan's personality. If that had happened, it'd be the same as Yi Lingjuan's public image collapsing, and it would also immensely impact his reputation. Since that's not it, why did Miss Worryless Nya appear as a Yunma out of nowhere? There must be a reason, right? A director next to Qin Zong asked, and the other directors all nodded in agreement. At this moment, The silent Yi Wanwan raised her foot and released Qin Zong momentarily, only to use her other foot to step on him again. She then turned to Qin Zong and asked with raised brows, "Vice President Qin, shouldn't you know best why I would appear using the identity of a Yun Ma and present myself as the president's daughter in front of everyone?" Qin Zong's expression darkened. "Me? You must be joking, Miss Nye. Why would I know?" "Oh, you don't know? That's fine. I'll explain it to you slowly." Yi Wanwan snorted. "These years, you've used your position as the vice president of the Arbitration Council to stuff your pockets and indulge in bribery and fraud. Who knows how many shady dealings you've conducted in secret? According to your plan, the position of the next president would belong to you. At that time, your power would be all-encompassing, those matters naturally wouldn't come to light, and you could continue to use the position of president to seek your personal gains. However, who could have expected President Yi to suddenly have a daughter he spoiled with no limits? If you didn't witness the sudden introduction of President Yi's daughter, if you didn't think President Yi had intentions for his daughter to succeed his position, why would you be driven to desperate action and resort to assassinating me, assassinating Yi Yunma? If it wasn't for that, why would you have messed up your own plans and destroyed all evidence of your crimes these past years in such haste that I managed to obtain information against you? My master has extensive foresight and knew about the things you've done long ago, but he didn't have evidence, so he colluded with me to act out this play and make you reveal your flaws so that he could eradicate you, a malignant tumor concealed in the Arbitration Council." Yi Wanwan spoke righteously and honorably from start to end. Yi Lingjun was dumbfounded and nearly also believed what she said was true. As for Qin Zong, his expression was still composed at first but darkened as he listened. When he heard the last sentence, his expression changed drastically and he furiously shouted, "Little bitch, you're spouting nonsense. What assassination? What evidence? Utter nonsense." Chapter 2380. Don't dirty your foot. Qin Shiyuan also quickly said, "Worryless Nye, my father is the vice president of the Arbitration Council. Do you know the consequences of accusing and slandering him without any proof?" The other directors were also incredulous when they heard this, and many directors from Qin Zong's party spoke on his behalf. At this moment, footsteps were heard from the distance. In his black windbreaker and with a brown briefcase in hand, Si Yihan walked toward the crowd. Upon seeing Si Yihan, Yi Wanwan's unease finally settled. "Agio." Si Yihan ignored everyone and stopped in front of Yi Wanwan. He coldly glanced at the Yinheng tightly pressed against the floor beneath her foot and frowned. "Wanwan, let go." Yi Wanwan protested, "No. He abducted Tangting. Don't dirty your foot." After saying that, Si Yihan shot Lin Ke a look. Lin Ke resigned himself to his fate and pursed his lips as he walked over. All right, let me do this kind of task. Let go, ninth sister. I will step on him for you. I'm not afraid of dirtying myself." Gently embraced by Si Yihan, Yi Wanwan finally lifted her foot and returned to Si Yihan's side. Yinheng screamed in pain as he was stepped on again by Lin Quebec. After placating Yi Wanwan, Si Yihan brought over the brown briefcase to Yi Lingjun. "President, I've fortunately succeeded in obtaining the item you wanted." When Qin Zong saw the object in Si Yihan's hand, his expression shifted and an ominous feeling rose in him. Yinheng also held his breath. "Great. You've worked hard." Yi Lingjun took the briefcase from Si Yihan before throwing it at Qin Zong's feet with a bang. His expression was dark as he said, "See for yourself." Qin Zong truly panicked this time. With a tremble, he picked up the briefcase from the floor while the directors near him also bent down to pick up the documents that fell out of the briefcase. Shock filled everyone who saw the contents. Wasn't Qin Zong's appetite too insatiable? He actually used the Arbitration Council to dredge up so much money for himself and committed crimes knowingly as the vice president of the Arbitration Council. Who knew how many inconceivable deeds he'd done in secret? Each and every deed was tracked and presented before everyone by Si Yihan. "Guards! Take Vice President Qin away and lock down the Qin residence immediately," Yi Lingjun ordered. Soon, guards poured inside and securely arrested Qin Zong. Qin Shiyuan was also seized and turned to Yi Lingjun, panic written all over her face. "President, This is a misunderstanding. There must be a misunderstanding here. Don't listen to that little bitch's poison, President. Yi Lingjun responded, Miss Qin, if there's something you wish to say, you will have the opportunity to do so at your trial. Qin Shiyuan's legs turned limp and defeat enveloped her face. It was all over. Hing. It's your fault. It's all your fault. You piece of garbage. Garbage. You did this. Qin Shiyuan hysterically pounced on Yin Heng, causing Yin Heng to vomit several more mouthfuls of blood with her kicks. If he didn't fail in his assassination of worryless Nia, how could they have alerted their enemies? How could their Qin family be destroyed? Qin Shiyuan was overrun with regret at this moment. Her biggest mistake in life was choosing to form an alliance with this idiot, Yin Heng. Si Yihan. If she dated Si Yihan, things absolutely wouldn't have turned out like this. However, it was too late. Everything was too late. Qin Shiyuan was lifelessly dragged away by the guards, but her expression was filled with envy and hatred as she looked at Yi Wanwan. What she found harder to accept than her father being arrested was that she never would have expected this lowly and wretched woman to actually be Yi Lingjuan's sole personal disciple. Chapter 2381. Have you mistaken something? Everyone in the independent state knew there was a gargantuan difference between a personal disciple and an outer disciple. There was only one personal disciple and maybe 2 or 3 other disciples at most who would be imparted with every technique. On the other hand, there could be thousands of outer disciples and the majority were taught by other older disciples, and many of those outer disciples wouldn't even come into contact with their master. For someone of Yi Lingjuan's prestige, it was honorable enough even if you possessed the title of his outer disciple, let alone the fact that Yi Wanwan was Yi Lingjuan's sole personal disciple. Instantly, everyone's gaze toward worryless Nia changed. In conjunction, everyone looked at Si Yihan with a face full of admiration. They previously assumed Si Yihan was as blind as a bat, but it now appeared that he was the true winner in life. Amongst everyone present, the person who felt the worst was likely none other than Yin Heng. Yin Heng dazedly lay on the ground, his eyes incredulous as he stared at Si Yihan. After learning about Yi Wanwan's identity, the envy and hatred he felt towards Si Yihan agonized him more than the physical pain he felt. Why? Why couldn't he match up to Si Yihan in any area in his life? He wouldn't accept it. How could he possibly accept it? After Qin Zong was taken away for his punishment, Lin Ke reminded everyone, hey, what should we do with this guy? On this matter, Yi Lingjun had to side with Yi Wanwan no matter what. Hence, he austerely turned to Yin Heng and said, Yin Heng, regardless of your grievances, you shouldn't have dragged innocent people into it, let alone a child. You should release Tang Tang. A chilly smile crept onto Yin Heng's dumbfounded face. What if I won't? Yi Wanwan clenched her fists instantly and was about to say something when Yi Lingjun stopped her and ordered, bring him back. We'll find ways to make him speak. Yes. The guards answered and made to seize Yin Heng. However, before the guards could do anything, a voice was heard behind everyone. Hold on. Everyone automatically turned around and saw a black-dressed Yin Yuerong returning from her trip with several servants in tow. When Yi Lingjun saw Yin Yuerong returning, he furrowed his brows. He knew the issue was about to become tricky. However, Yi Lingjun didn't reveal anything in his expression and calmly greeted her. Director Yin is back. As soon as Yin Heng saw Yin Yuerong, hope surfaced in his numb and dark expression, and his eyes brightened. Mother, save me. Yin Yuerong haughtily glanced at her adopted son lying on the ground without a ripple of emotions in her eyes. Her gaze then flitted over Si Yihan and Yi Wanwan before settling on Yi Lingjun. She aloofly asked, President, I have gained a general understanding of the matter, but may I ask what wrong Ah Heng committed that's causing President Yi to personally take him away? Yi Lingjun frowned minutely before replying, Since you've heard what happened, Director Yin, you should also know that Yin Heng abducted worryless son. Yin Yuerong smiled and said composedly, President, have you mistaken something? Worryless Nia's son is also my, Yin Yuerong's, grandson. I merely sent Ah Heng to bring my grandson here and reunite him with me, his grandmother. How can it be considered abduction? Yi Lingjuan's expression darkened a tinge. Although Yin Yuerong was absolutely making excuses, there wasn't a single flaw they could pick apart. Even Yi Wanwan and Si Yihan couldn't refute their relationship. Chapter 2382. Yin Yuerong's eyes carried a tinge of coldness as she continued, President, as a director, I strictly obey all of the Arbitration Council's laws. If Yin Heng committed a crime, I will punish him without lenience. However, this is clearly the Yin family's personal business. What do you say, President? Regardless of how high Yi Lingjuan's position was, he didn't have the right to manage other people's family business. Yi Lingjun felt his head pounding. Yin Yuerong was incredibly tricky, and even he was extremely unwilling to have dealings with her. Yi Wanwan suppressed her fury before saying, Director Yin, if you have any issues, you can come at me. Don't harm a child. Yin Yuerong turned to Yi Wanwan and smiled. How capable you are to have even deceived me, Miss Nia. No wonder Agio is so hell-bent on you. However, no need to be so nervous, Miss Nia. I said that I'm Tong Tong's grandmother, so there shouldn't be any issue for a grandmother to bring her grandson to live with her for a few days, right? Yi Wanwan bore Si Yihan in mind and seriously couldn't say anything awful. At this moment, Si Yihan glanced at Yin Heng, who was moaning in pain on the floor, and ordered Lin Kei, bring young Master Yin back. All right, ninth brother. Lin Kei immediately summoned several people to securely bind Yin Heng before throwing him in the back. Then Si Yihan apathetically said, I'm Yin Heng's brother, so I'm sure Director Yin won't mind me inviting him to my place as a guest for a few days. Yi Wanwan. Yi Lingjun exasperatedly looked at this mother and son duo. You use my son to threaten me, so I will also use your adopted son to threaten you. WTF? Upon seeing Si Yihan actually using Yin Heng to threaten her, a dark glint sparked in Yin Yuerong's eyes but was quickly hidden. She chuckled lightly and said, If you wish. Probably not expecting this response from Yin Yuerong, Si Yihan's expression darkened. Meanwhile, Yin Heng was shocked, not expecting Yin Yuerong to disregard him this easily. He exclaimed, Mother! He couldn't end up in Si Yihan's possession. He absolutely couldn't. Si Yihan absolutely wouldn't spare him. Upon seeing a war on the verge of breaking out between the mother and son duo, Yi Lingjun felt his head pounding. If the mother and son duo seriously started fighting, even he, the president, wouldn't be able to control the scene. Yi Lingjun had no choice but to quickly send his daughter a look. Yi Wanwan frowned and took a deep breath to calm herself down. She walked in front of Si Yihan. Agio, we'll go back first and think of something. Can't you tell? There's no way Yin Yuerong would release Tang Tang in front of so many people, otherwise, what would happen to her face? Plus, you're forcefully clashing with her like this. Yin Yuerong absolutely isn't someone who would back down and compromise. She will only clash with you to the end. We can't save Tang Tang like this. As Si Yihan listened to the girl's soft, persuading voice, logic finally returned to him. It had to be said that Wanwan was correct. Although she hadn't had many interactions with Yin Yuerong, she had a deep understanding of Yin Yuerong's personality. Agio, let's go back first. We'll negotiate privately with Yin Yuerong later. Plus, with my master also helping, it shouldn't be a big problem to make her release Tang Tang, Yi Wanwan continued. Yin Yuerong swept her eyes over all the guests. It's late already, so I won't keep everyone. Unless everyone wants to stay and visit some more? With this swords-drawn situation, how could those higher-ups and directors dare to stay? Where would they seek justice if they became collateral damage? Hence, everyone hastily bid farewell and excused themselves. Chapter 2383. Where's that child? Si Yihan and Yin Yuerong met each other's eyes. Feeling the comforting hand in his grasp, Si Yihan finally relented. All right. This time, it was Yin Yuerong's turn to be surprised. She subconsciously glanced at Yi Wanwan next to him. She didn't expect her son to take a step back first with his personality. Late at night, in Si Yihan's residence, Tang Tang was still in the hands of Yin Yuerong. Both Yi Wanwan and Si Yihan's expressions didn't look too good. Lin Kei's head ached as he asked, How should we deal with that guy, Yin Heng? How about we imprison him and interrogate him with torture? Perhaps Auntie Rong's heart would hurt then? After all, he's her only heir, so she must care about him to some degree, right? Si Yihan mulled over it for a moment before replying. Use the standard torture every day, but no need to watch over him too closely. Allow him to contact the outside. Lin Kei was first startled before understanding dawned on him. Oh, I get it. We're making him ask Auntie Rong for help, right? You're so smart, ninth brother. Alright, I understand. Yi Wanwan glanced at Si Yihan. Agio, are you certain Yin Yuerong cares about Yin Heng's survival? This isn't how you show concern for someone. I seriously can't see how Yin Heng is useful as a hostage. Anyway, Yin Heng can only be considered as an abandoned chess piece, Si Yihan said. She does care about Yin Heng. At least with Yin Heng here, Tang Tang will be safe. When Yi Wanwan heard Si Yihan say that Yin Yuerong cared about Yin Heng, her heart panged inexplicably. If she doesn't release Tang Tang within 3 days, I will use my own method to resolve this, Si Yihan said. His own method? Yi Wanwan frowned deeply. She truly didn't wish for matters to exacerbate to that extent. At the Yin residence, Yin Heng's confidant, Zhong, was quivering as he knelt on the floor. Madam, this subordinate was wrong. This subordinate is really sorry. Zhong kept kowtowing, scared witless. Yin Yuerong smiled sardonically. Wrong? I would like to hear what you did wrong. Zhong quickly replied. This subordinate shouldn't have allowed young master Yin Heng to act rashly, shouldn't have allowed him to abduct little young master. Yin Yuerong smashed the teacup in her hand. What you did wrong wasn't abducting that child. What you did wrong was your idiocy and arrogance. She was well aware of Yin Heng's private dealings with Qin Zong, but she intentionally didn't warn Yin Heng because she wanted to test him. Who would have expected Yin Heng to be idiotic to this extent and make himself someone else's sword step by step? The housekeeper sighed and muttered to herself, now that things have turned out like this and we've even abducted that child, eldest young master absolutely won't return to the Yin estate. She originally thought the mother and son duo's relationship could improve after eldest young master returned to Tianshui City, but who would have expected it to worsen progressively? What? Do you think he's my only option? Even without him, even without Yin Heng, I can have a second Yin Heng. Yin Yuerong furiously spat out. She originally thought he would return as long as he left that woman, but now, she knew that this son of hers absolutely wouldn't return. The housekeeper wanted to say something but didn't dare to refute her madam. How could it be the same? Madam clearly knew that regardless of who it was, they couldn't be the same as eldest young master in the end. Where's the child? Yin Yuerong asked. Zhong cautiously answered, young master Yin Heng ordered people to guard him. Send him to Wanmei Villa first, Yin Yuerong commanded. Chapter 2384, Merely a piece of trash, yes, Zhong replied. The housekeeper was worried. What are you planning, madam? In truth, young master Yin Heng went too far on this matter and shouldn't have implicated an innocent child no matter what. How about we release that child? This way, young master Yin Heng will also be safe. Yin Yuerong aloofly glanced at the housekeeper. Since when can you lecture me on what to do? Forgive me, madam, I've overstepped. The housekeeper hastily knelt down, sweat drenching her forehead. This matter had greatly provoked madam, causing madam to be rather unstable. If madam did something to that child impulsively, the consequences would be inconceivable. Zhong waited for half a day, but Yin Yuerong still didn't mention Yin Heng at all, so he couldn't resist. Madam, what about young master Yin Heng? We have to hurry and save him. There wasn't a lick of warmth on Yin Yuerong's face. He's merely a piece of trash? Is he worth my energy? Zhong. In the hidden room that held Yin Heng prisoner, after night descended, Zhong took a chance and pretended to be a guard to sneak inside. To his surprise, he succeeded. Young master. Young master. When Yin Heng heard Zhong calling, he darted up in a fluid motion and stared at the new arrival in astonishment. Zhong, why are you here? Zhong replied, I was worried about young master's safety, so I took the risk and sneaked inside. Hurry! Hurry and save me! In Hung couldn't stay a second longer in this wretched place. Young master, the security is tight here, so it was already hard for me to sneak inside. I can't take you with me. Zhong replied, troubled. Damn it. In Heng glowered. How is the situation on mother's side? When is mother coming to save me? Did mother ask you to come? Reluctance filled Ah Zhong's face, and he hesitantly said, Madam, she didn't mention your situation. Ah Zhong didn't dare to tell In Heng the truth. Judging from In Yuerong's attitude, she had no plans to save In Heng. In Heng was startled. What do you mean she didn't mention my situation? In Yuerong actually didn't mention saving him at all? Could he really be abandoned? Impossible. Impossible. Although I've disappointed mother this time, mother spent so much energy on me. I'm her only heir. She absolutely wouldn't give up on me. In Heng protested. Ah Zhong said, Yes, you're right, young master. Aside from relying on you, who else can Madam rely on now? Madam and eldest young master are incompatible as fire and water now, and eldest young master absolutely won't return. You should also know what Si Yihan is like. I'm sure Madam simply can't think of a good method to save you for the moment. In Heng gritted his teeth. Yes, that's right. So what if worryless Nye is the president's personal disciple? Si Yihan and mother's relationship absolutely won't heal, and mother will persist in impeding that bill from passing. Moreover, mother loathes that woman so much, so she'll definitely torture that little bastard. At that point, neither side will win. At that time, the Yin family will be mine. Joy enveloped Ah Zhong's face. You're brilliant, young master. Ah Zhong, you know what to do after leaving, right? I know. I'll definitely laud some more praise about young master in front of Madam and inform Madam that you've been ruthlessly tortured and interrogated here and ask her to save you. As for the little bastard, I'm sure Madam will torture him enough without me doing much. Madam won't spare him easily. Great, In Heng said. Chapter 2385. Are you a celestial maiden, older sister? Next morning, at a sprawling villa located in the middle of a mountain, Wanmei Villa was one of In Yuerong's private properties with a very hidden location. It was specifically used by In Yuerong to raise goo insects and craft poison. Rumors claimed poison pervaded the air while poisonous insects covered the earth. Everyone in Tianshui City knew it was a forbidden area, and no one dared to approach. Because In Yuerong liked plum flowers, a forest of plum trees was planted in the villa, meticulously tended by the servants. It was currently the blossoming period for plum trees, so the fragrance of plum blossoms permeated every inch of the villa. However, the architectural style of this villa was overly antiquated and the color scheme was dark. The scenery was clearly gorgeous but appeared eerie and lifeless, and even the flowers appeared creepy. Early in the morning, light snow started dusting the sky. Accompanied by the howling of the wintry wind, the manor appeared especially desolate and frightening. Madam! As soon as In Yuerong stepped inside the living room, a servant cast down their head and stepped forward to take In Yuerong's jacket off while a female servant rushed to serve their master hot tea. Every servant silently stood in 2 rows on each side, none daring to breathe loudly. In Yuerong took a sip of the pu'er before saying, Bring him here. Yes. Ah Zhong nodded frantically and quickly ordered his underlings, Hurry and bring that little bastard here. In Yuerong's brows imperceptibly knitted upon hearing Ah Zhong's words but didn't comment on it. Soon, footsteps were heard outside the door and 2 underlings brought a young child around 4 or 5 years old into the room. The child was still wearing his blue school uniform. His skin was fair and pink, his cheeks chubby with baby fat, and his eyes were clear and bright, as though their observer had fallen into the starry night. Despite being abducted to this strange and scary place, the little fella's face didn't contain a trace of panic, and he merely looked around curiously. After Tang Tang was brought over, he first examined his surroundings before his gaze landed on the woman sitting on the red wooden chair. In Yuerong was dressed in a tight black outfit as usual with black boots wrapping her feet, though the color black merely complemented her skin and made it appear whiter. Her hair was black as ink while her exquisite looks lacked the smallest wrinkle. If it weren't for her overly harsh aura and frightening expression, people would believe it if she was said to be 30 years old. At this moment, In Yuerong was also scrutinizing the child before her. The moment she saw the child, she froze minutely. This fair child crafted from jade simply looked identical to Agio when he was young. In fact, he was fairer and cuter than Agio when he was young. Even the housekeeper nearby was astonished and lowered her voice to whisper to In Yuerong. "Oh my, madam, this child looks so similar to eldest young master when he was young." The child not only resembled Agio but his features also resembled that woman. This child completely inherited the finest points of his parents. Worry filled the housekeeper's face when she saw In Yuerong's tempestuous expression. She was afraid In Yuerong would take her anger out on this child. "Madam," the housekeeper was still hesitating over how she should advise her madam when the little fella in the middle of the living room looked to the left and looked to the right before settling his sparkling gaze on In Yuerong and childishly asking, "Older sister, you're so pretty. Are you a celestial maiden?" In Yuerong, the housekeeper. In Yuerong probably never expected this to be the child's first line upon seeing her. Her expression was evidently startled, and her brows furrowed as well. However, that expression couldn't be considered as angry. She merely didn't know how to react from the surprise. In Yuerong's expression turned stern. "Nonsense isn't permitted." Tang Tang tilted his head in confusion. "What? You have a rule that forbids people from telling the truth, older sister?" In Yuerong. This was In Yuerong's first time being rendered speechless. Chapter 2386. Hurry and eat this. Older sister. The housekeeper finally reacted a moment later and chuckled. "Madam, don't be angry. Children are young and innocent and don't know how to lie. You look young to begin with, and people used to believe you and eldest young master were siblings when you went out together. Anyway, you're good looking, so it's no wonder the child misunderstood. There probably wasn't a single woman in the world who didn't like being described as good looking, and In Yuerong was no exception." At that moment, a servant entered the living room while carrying a bowl of black medicine. "Madam, it's time to take your medicine." In Yuerong perpetually came into contact with goo insects and her body was contaminated by poison, naturally sustaining damage, so she constantly needed to take medicine to recover. This wasn't normal medicine. It was overwhelmingly black with an extremely frightening appearance and utterly unbearable odor. As soon as the medicine was served, all the servants couldn't help but wrinkle their brows. "Older sister, what is that?" Tang Tang asked inquisitively. In Yuerong wanted to correct this child's term of address, but didn't for some reason. She carelessly replied, "Medicinal soup." Baby Tang Tang appeared worried instantly. "Are you sick, older sister?" When In Yuerong saw the untainted worry in the child's eyes, she was startled. She couldn't remember how long it had been since she'd seen such pure concern. When the housekeeper noticed the lack of response from her madam, she helped explain gently, "Madam's body has just been damaged slightly and she needs the medicine to recover. Don't worry." In Yuerong stopped paying attention to that child and merely picked up the medicine like it was a bowl of normal congee and downed it expressionlessly. Even though it was such a frightening bowl of liquid that made others nauseous solely by the smell, all In Yuerong did was frown lightly after drinking it. Tang Tang unblinkingly watched In Yuerong the entire time. After In Yuerong finished drinking the medicine, he rustled around in his pocket and dug out a colorful item, opening it quickly as he sprinted toward In Yuerong. Then he stripped that piece of milk candy from its wrapper and stuffed it into In Yuerong's mouth. "Hurry and eat this, older sister." Ajong shouted immediately, "Damn brat, do you want to die? What did you feed madam?" Tang Tang blinked and peered at the man. "It's milk candy. It's very sweet, so the aftertaste won't be bitter anymore." In Yuerong wasn't on guard against the child in the slightest, so she was stuffed with the piece of candy without warning. A sweet fragrance filled her mouth instantly, slowly dissipating the nauseating bitterness inside. She looked down and saw the child's concerned and anticipatory eyes. "Older sister, it's not bitter anymore, right? It was mommy who bought this milk candy for me. I only had this one left." As the little fella said that, sadness filled his face. He only had one left but still gave it to her. She never expressed any emotion that indicated the medicine tasted bitter, so everyone thought she could tolerate this taste, and she herself had gotten used to it ages ago. This was the first time someone was actually worried that she would find the medicine bitter. Ajong panicked. "Madam, who knows what in the world that was? Perhaps it's poisonous." The little bastard, In Yuerong's expression chilled at once. "Shut up. Is it your turn to speak?" Ajong scowled at that child. He never expected the first meeting between these two people to be so strange. No, he couldn't allow this to continue. Chapter 2387, Aren't You Scared of Me? Ajong turned to Tang Tang and admonished him furiously, "Don't be rude. Don't you know who she is? This is the matriarch of Tianshui City's Yin family. She's Madam Director of the Arbitration Council." Matriarch of the Yin family. A contemplative emotion rose in baby Tong Tong's large eyes upon hearing that, as if he finally understood who she was. The warm atmosphere earlier was akin to a bubbled illusion, and it shattered with a pop. That's right. This child was only so concerned and friendly toward her because he didn't know who she was. Iciness gradually seeped back into Yin Yuerong's face, and she turned to the child. "That's right. I'm the head of the Yin family." She didn't believe that Agio and that woman, Worryless Nye, wouldn't have mentioned her to this child, especially Worryless Nye. That woman had to have warned this child about the kind of person she was. However, what surprised Yin Yuerong again was that the child didn't reveal any scared expression after learning about her identity. Instead, the child was joyous and excited. "Grandma," the little fella cheerfully called as he looked at her. "So you're Tong Tong's grandma?" When Yin Yuerong heard the little fella calling her grandma, Yin Yuerong's spine stiffened, incomprehension and strangeness enveloping her eyes. "You know who I am. Aren't you scared of me?" Tang Tang was baffled. "Why should I be afraid of grandma?" Yin Yuerong calmly asked. "Your mother didn't mention me to you?" Tang Tang honestly nodded. "Mommy mentioned grandma." Mockery filled Yin Yuerong's face. "Oh, is that so? What did your mommy say about me?" Tang Tang thought about it. "Mommy said grandma isn't easy to get along with." Yin Yuerong snorted. "As expected." "And?" Yin Yuerong pressed. Tang Tang replied, "Mommy said although grandma isn't easy to get along with, grandma's actually a nice person, and grandma just has some issues with her EQ." Yin Yuerong, "I'm a nice person? And I have issues with my EQ?" No matter what, Yin Yuerong never expected this to be Worryless Nye's evaluation of her. Tang Tang continued, "Mommy said that you have a noble status and are so good-looking, so you're going to be a winner in life without a problem, but unfortunately, your EQ is too low, just like my daddy." Thankfully, Tang Tang didn't inherit grandma and daddy's EQ. As Yin Yuerong listened to the child's words, her expression was indescribable and it took her half a day to recover her wits. "That's all your mother said?" "Yeah." Baby Tang Tang nodded and quickly comforted her. "But don't be sad, Grandma. With the EQ of Mommy and I, that's enough for our family." Yin Yuerong had no idea what to say anymore. Plus, the "our family" part caused some strange emotion to surface in her heart. When the housekeeper heard this, she couldn't help but release a chuckle. Gentleness was all over her face and she affectionately looked at the child in front of her. "Madam, little young master is very interesting." Then she furtively said to Yin Yuerong, "Madam, actually, we've never tried to understand that Worryless Nye. Perhaps she isn't as terrible as we imagined. After all, eldest young master likes her. So how awful could she be?" The housekeeper obtained a much more favorable impression of Worryless Nye simply based on the fact that she hadn't instilled the previous generation's grievances and hatred onto a child. Moreover, the little young master was exceptionally pretty and adorable, so she liked him more the more she saw him. No wonder this child wasn't scared after being abducted and didn't panic after seeing Yin Yuerong. It turned out Worryless Nye never spoke ill of his grandmother in front of him. The child was clear-minded, so he felt no fear. Chapter 2388, place him next door. Yin Yuerong naturally caught that Auntie Chiao was helping that woman, so she aloofly asked, "So I should be grateful and on my knees simply because she didn't speak ill of me in front of a child? Do you think I care?" Auntie Chiao quickly lowered her head and respectfully said, "Of course you wouldn't. You've never cared about what other people thought, madam." Auntie Chiao had a thorough understanding of Yin Yuerong's personality. Changing her opinion of a person was harder than ascending to the heavens. That was the case for Si Huaizhong, that was the case for eldest young master, and that was the case for worryless Nia without exception. No matter what Si Huaizhong did, Madame was unwilling to change her feelings toward him and unwilling to give up. Madame's severeness and misplaced anger toward eldest young master also never changed. When it came to worryless Nia, she had caused eldest young master to completely escape Madame's control, so it was nearly impossible to make Madame accept her. Auntie Chiao couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Worryless Nia's evaluation of Madame was fairly accurate. Madame was fine otherwise, but her personality was seriously. Yin Yuerong glanced at the child before standing up as she pinched her brows. "I won't return to the ancestral estate today and will work here. As for this child, make arrangements for him, Auntie Chiao." After learning about matters going south in Tianshui City, she rushed back overnight. Then after what happened to Qin Zong, she had a giant mess to deal with and didn't have a moment's rest. After Qin Zong's fall from power, the vice president faction was leaderless and descended into chaos, and an endless stream of people visited her. "All right, madam. Where will little young master stay?" Auntie Chiao furtively inquired. Zhong quickly interjected at that moment. "How about you leave this child's arrangements to me, madam?" Perhaps sensing that Yin Yuerong didn't seem to like him calling that child little bastard, Zhong shrewdly changed his term of address. No matter what, this child was Yin Yuerong's grandson, so while she herself could insult him like that, she might not be able to tolerate other people insulting him in that way. Yin Yuerong was about to agree without a thought but inexplicably changed her mind upon meeting that child's clear eyes. "Auntie Chiao, clean out the room next to mine." Joy filled Auntie Chiao's face. "Yes, I will do so now." Zhong was startled. How could that do? What right does this child have?" Auntie Chiao glanced at Zhong with displeasure. "This is the Yin family's little young master. This is Madame's grandson. What problem is there with him being next to Madame?" Regarding Auntie Chiao's comment, Yin Yuerong furrowed her brows but didn't end up admonishing the woman in the end, perhaps not having the energy to care out of exhaustion. When Zhong saw that Yin Yuerong didn't say anything, he knew that whatever he said would be useless, so he could only reluctantly say, There's no problem. Placing him next to Madame to watch him carefully couldn't be any more appropriate. In the study, Yin Yuerong drank an especially strong cup of coffee and was taking care of her business affairs when Zhong knocked and entered. "Madame, speak." Yin Yuerong didn't even look up. Zhong did as Yin Heng instructed last night and mournfully cried, "Madam, I snuck into the sea residence to visit young master Yin Heng last night and eldest young master was truly too vicious. Young master Yin Heng was covered in injuries but was left untreated. Eldest young master even tortured him. Young master Yin Heng is very weak right now. Madam, you must hurry and think of a method to rescue young master Yin Heng. Otherwise, if this continues, young master won't be able to endure it." Yin Yuerong set down the fountain pen in her hand and coldly glanced at Zhong. "It appears you didn't understand my orders yesterday? Do you think his fate would be any better if he were here with me?" Chapter 2389. Eat dinner together. The icy gaze sent a shiver down Zhong's back. He gulped and said, "Madam, I know young master Yin Heng committed a grievous crime this time, but his motives were to better the future of the Yin family. After all, he's the future head of the Yin family. You should know eldest young master's personality. He's been bewitched by that vixen and most likely won't return, so the Yin family's future will have to depend on young master Yin Heng." Yin Yuerong's expression darkened abruptly. "Are you threatening me?" "I wouldn't dare." "Why would I, madam? I'm merely thinking on behalf of Madame and the Yin family." "Scram." "Yes, please." In the sea resident's secret dungeon, Zhong snuck inside again. As soon as Heng saw Zhong, he asked anxiously, "How were things? Did mother say when she'll rescue me?" Zhong was afraid Heng would be aggravated, so he tried his best to be tactful. Madam is currently having a row with eldest young master. So there's no way she'd relent so quickly. We can only inconvenience young master in suffering for several more days. What? I have to wait several more days? Heng's expression darkened instantly and he finally sensed something was amiss. Zhong, tell me the truth. Just what did mother say? I want to hear her exact words. Zhong looked troubled. Young master Heng, it'd be better if you didn't know. Heng tightly clutched the metal bars. Of course I have to know. Speak quickly. Zhong had no choice but to speak the truth. Madam said, even if you were at the estate right now, your fate wouldn't be any better. And she also said you were a piece of trash, and weren't worth her expending her energy. When Heng heard this, he was incredulous. Impossible. How could that be possible? Yuerong only has me left. She dares to not save me? Yes, I agree, young master, so Madam probably only said that in anger. You mustn't get aggravated. Madam is just in a bad mood because she's utterly exhausted from overworking lately. Zhong said. Heng tried his best to calm down. How's the situation on the outside right now? Zhong responded, now that Vice President Qin has fallen from power, people are visiting Madam all the time, and Madam's been frequently coming into contact with those people. Philip, Madam probably wants to replace him and take up the position of Vice President. Heng's eyes brightened. With mother's abilities and connections, she would be the strongest contender for the position of Vice President indeed. If Yuerong became the Vice President, he could borrow Yuerong's power to make a comeback. Heng's expression was dark. Now that mother has forcefully seized that little bastard, she has completely fallen out with Ziyin, so both sides will definitely suffer in the end. At that point, mother will definitely invite me back. Zhong nodded vehemently. You're right, eldest young master. At Wanmei Villa, Yuerong had been working from morning to evening and didn't permit the servants to disturb her for lunch. In the end, it was Auntie Qiao who gathered her courage to knock on the door and call her out for dinner. Yuerong walked to the dining table as usual but started upon approach. What was different from before was that there was also a fair and adorable child sitting next to the giant table today. The chair was a bit high, so the little fella's legs swung back and forth in the air as he sat there. When he saw her, he immediately waved his hand happily. Grandmother! Only then did Yuerong recall that there was another person in the villa. Auntie Qiao observed Yuerong's attitude before tentatively saying, there aren't many servants here and we couldn't arrange to make a separate meal, so I allowed little young master to dine with you. It's just an extra pair of chopsticks. Chapter 2390. Tang Tang is angry without expressing any opinion. Yuerong walked over to her seat, completely ignoring this additional person. She used lemon water to clean her hands before she started eating expressionlessly. When Yuerong ignored him, Tang Tang didn't mind and stayed in his seat, unbothered. Yuerong was vegetarian, so all the dishes on the table were vegetarian too. Auntie Qiao worriedly looked at the little fella, afraid the food wouldn't be to his taste. Without surprise, what she worried about occurred. The little fella didn't raise his chopsticks to pick up any of the dishes or start eating. He just stared at Yuerong with an unhappy expression on his cherub face. Auntie Qiao cleared her throat and attempted to pacify the child. Little young master, our vegetarian dishes here are pretty good. Give them a try. Zhong entered, carrying a bowl of vegetable soup, and sarcastically said, Auntie Qiao, he's a pampered and spoiled young master, so how could he be used to eating this kind of food? Auntie Qiao frowned. It's normal for little children to be picky about food. Although Auntie Qiao said that, she was still incredibly worried. When eldest young master dared to be picky about food in the past, he absolutely received very severe punishments. Yuerong was irritated by their bickering and slapped her chopsticks on the table. Shut up. You're making a ruckus. Only then did Auntie Chow and Ajong finally quiet down. After saying that, Yin Yuerong turned to the stern-faced child, her expression displeased. Tang Tang didn't talk and maintained his stern expression, unblinkingly staring at Yin Yuerong. Yin Yuerong was about to say something when the little fella suddenly slipped out of the chair and swiftly darted toward Yin Yuerong. Yin Yuerong frowned with displeasure on her face, not knowing what his intentions were. Tang Tang stopped in front of her and stood on his tiptoes before gently pasting his meaty little hand on Yin Yuerong's boiling forehead. The little fella's warm hand touched her without warning, startling Yin Yuerong. It wasn't only Yin Yuerong. Ajong and Auntie Chow also jolted in fright. Yin Yuerong hated other people's touch the most, so by throwing a tantrum like this, the child was simply suicidal. Ajong shouted angrily at once, "How insolent! Utterly rude! Little brat, what are you doing?" Tang Tang stuck his hand on Yin Yuerong's forehead for a while and pulled down Yin Yuerong's neck so her head would be lowered. He decisively pasted his forehead on Yin Yuerong's forehead. The little fella's adorably and childish face was stern and he seriously declared, "Grandmother, you have a fever." Yin Yuerong froze like a statue, her boiling forehead still touching the little fella's warm forehead, and a sweet milky fragrance was all she could smell. A pair of reproachful and worried eyes filled her field of view. Yin Yuerong herself understood medicine, so she casually took her pulse and her brows furrowed. She really was sick? She was so busy that she hadn't detected it at all until now. "Madam, how are you?" Auntie Chow finally snapped out of her surprise and hurried over. "It's just a fever." "No need for the fuss," Yin Yuerong said. Tong Tong's expression was abnormally somber. "Tong Tong's forehead is very hot. Your fever is very serious. You have to hurry and take medicine and rest." Auntie Chow carefully examined Yin Yuerong and saw that aside from looking a little more tired than usual, Yin Yuerong's state wasn't very different visually, so she couldn't tell that Yin Yuerong was sick. She never expected the child's observation skills to be so meticulous and to be the first to discover it. So it turned out he wasn't unhappy because he was picky, but it was because his grandmother was sick. Chapter 2391. Tell a story. Auntie Chow, go grab some medicine. When faced with the little fella's bright and dazzling gaze, Yin Yuerong didn't know why she relented and asked to Auntie Chow retrieve some medicine in the end. Inside the bedroom, Yin Yuerong took some fever-reducing medicine and lay down on her bed. Tang Tang stayed by her side and was only relieved after watching Yin Yuerong take her medicine. "Auntie Chow, bring over the documents from my desk," Yin Yuerong ordered. Auntie Chow was about to act on her request when Tang Tang turned to Yin Yuerong at once. "Grandma, you need to rest. No matter how important the work is, it's not as important as your health." Then the little fella looked at Auntie Chow. "Auntie Chow, turn up the thermostat and tell the kitchen to prepare some plain porridge. From now on, politely refuse all visitors and request sick leave from the arbitration council on Grandma's behalf." The little fella efficiently made these orders in a few words. Auntie Chow stood dazed in her spot. From the side, Ajong was disdainful. Was this little brat trying to revolt? Where did he think he was? He actually dared to boss people around here. Madam would definitely erupt in fury this time, right? Since Madam hated people who overstepped and broke rules the most. Yin Yuerong stared at the little fella in front of her for a long while before casting her eyes down and chuckling lightly. Perhaps it was due to her weak health that her face appeared softer than normal. "You're quite bossy, little fella." Based on Yin Yuerong's attitude, she didn't look displeased. "Didn't you hear? Do as he said." Yin Yuerong turned to Auntie Chow. Auntie Chow breathed a sigh of relief and was joyous as she quickly went to make the arrangements. Meanwhile, Ajong froze, flabbergasted. After Auntie Chow and Ajong left, only Yin Yuerong and Tang Tang remained in the room. Yin Yuerong leaned against the headboard. "How did you know I had a fever?" The little fella blinked. "Because Grandma looked really unwell." "Is that so?" Yin Yuerong was already used to putting up a pretense and not allowing herself to reveal any flaws under any circumstance, so even Auntie Chow, who had always been by her side, didn't see it. Yet this child managed to detect she was unwell with a single glance. It was probably because children's eyes were more innocent, so they could detect some things other people couldn't see, right? Grandma, is it hard to sleep? How about I tell you a story? Tang Tang suggested. As you wish. In Yuerong closed her eyes. Then I will start. Tang Tang cleared his throat before using his childish voice to start his storytelling. A long, long time ago, there lived a little girl in the forest. The little girl's grandmother weaved a red hood for the little girl that she particularly liked and wore every day, so everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, Little Red Riding Hood went to the other end of the forest to bring a meal to her grandmother, but she unexpectedly ran into a big gray wolf on her way. That big gray wolf was very hungry and pounced on Little Red Riding Hood as soon as he saw her. However, after the big gray wolf pounced, he didn't eat Little Red Riding Hood. Grandma, do you know why the big gray wolf didn't eat Little Red Riding Hood? Why? Before Yin Yuerong realized it, she'd already asked. Tang Tang replied with a grin, because the big gray wolf found Little Red Riding Hood too cute, so he wanted to be friends with Little Red Riding Hood and didn't want to eat her anymore. A smile rippled in Yin Yuerong's eyes. Is that how the story goes? Yes, it is. Do you want to hear more, Grandma? I have a lot of stories. I can keep telling them. Chapter 2392. Don't be afraid, Grandma. As the little fella's childish voice surrounded her, Yin Yuerong slowly closed her eyes and entered dreamland. Her sleep was particularly sound and uninterrupted, and Yin Yuerong slept from evening to the middle of the night, only jolted awake by a clap of thunder. As lightning flashed and thunder clapped, a raging storm surged and gales howled in the night, the shadows of the swaying trees resembling ghosts madly dancing outside the window. Yin Yuerong reflexively glanced outside the window with a furrow of her brows. After lying there for a moment, she sat up and covered herself with a jacket before walking out of her room. She stopped in front of the room next door and pushed open the door. In the bedroom, a faint lamp was lit on the nightstand and the little fella was lying in bed, sound asleep and unperturbed by the thunder outside. Yin Yuerong looked at Tang Tang, her brows locked together, vexed. She didn't linger and turned to leave. However, as she left, she accidentally stumbled into the chair by the bed, making a bang. The child in bed groggily woke up. Grandma? When the little fella discovered her presence, Yin Yuerong cleared her throat and answered. Tang Tang sat up as he rubbed his eyes before sleepily extending his arm and touching Yin Yuerong's forehead, checking if Yin Yuerong's fever had reduced. Then he yawned and looked at Yin Yuerong, curious. Grandma, why did you come over? Oh, I know. Are you scared, Grandma? As he said that, he patted Yin Yuerong's back with his little hand. Don't be scared, Grandma. My mommy said lightning and thunder are natural phenomena and there aren't ghosts in this world, so you don't need to be scared. The little fella earnestly explained all this to Yin Yuerong and even shifted over on the bed toward the inside. Grandma, if you're scared, you can sleep with Tang Tang. Although Yin Yuerong didn't want to admit it, she came to see the child out of concern, not expecting to end up being the one comforted. On the bed, the child wore the pajamas prepared for him by Auntie Chiao. The fuzzy pajamas matched the little fella's fair cheeks and sleepy eyes and made him exceptionally adorable. Agio was just as charming and adorable when he was younger, but Agio was akin to an exquisite but soulless and emotionless porcelain doll. His eyes never contained innocence, light, and warmth of this sort. Yin Yuerong became absent-minded, dusty memories from ages ago surfacing in her mind. A long, long time ago, when she was still a little girl, she liked children the most. Since when did she start hating them so much? Was it when Si Huaizhang and that woman secretly got together, or when their illegitimate children were born one after another, or when she had a child with Si Huaizhang after much effort but the child was ignored and viewed as a burden by him? No need. Go back to sleep. Yin Yuerong's expression quickly regained its normal facade, and she turned to leave the bedroom. Perhaps sick people were prone to letting their imaginations run wild, after all. Her behavior tonight was truly too abnormal. The next morning, Yin Yuerong's fever had fully subsided. She'd taken a sick day from the arbitration council and would be resting at home today. Early in the morning, Tang Tang sought out Yin Yuerong and wasn't placated until he confirmed she was well again. They had just finished eating breakfast when Auntie Chow led a young woman into the dining room. "Madam, Manager Zhang has personally brought over the newest season of clothes. Would you like to take a look?" Yin Yuerong didn't even look up and casually waved her hand. "You decide." Chapter 2393. "This one is pretty." Auntie Chow quickly responded. "Madam, the clothes this season are decent, so you should choose yourself. Your style is too monotonous. It's time to get some new additions." Every time new styles came out, Auntie Chow would ask the stores to bring them to the house for Yin Yuerong to select, but Yin Yuerong either had Auntie Chow decide or would choose the same 3 styles every time in black and black alone, never picking anything else. Since there wasn't anything to do today, Yin Yuerong agreed. "Bring them inside then." "Yes." Auntie Chow quickly asked the manager to bring the clothes inside. It wasn't Manager Zhang's first visit, but every time she came, she still couldn't help looking at this beautiful and aloof director of the arbitration council. This director seriously maintained herself too well. However, she just never dressed up. If she put even a smidgen more effort into her looks, she would definitely be more breathtaking. Manager Zhang had her workers move all the clothes inside, lining them up in one row for Yin Yuerong to choose at her leisure. Yin Yuerong tilted her head and randomly pointed at several options. This one. As expected, every outfit Yin Yuerong picked was black and formal and old-fashioned, not sparing a glance to the rest. Out of professional habit, Manager Zhang couldn't help walking to a navy blue dress and making a suggestion. "Director Yin, this one is also pretty with a classic style, so it wouldn't be too forward, and the color particularly complements your skin." Yin Yuerong looked up and apathetically glanced at the aforementioned dress. "Ugly." Manager Zhang's expression stiffened and she pointed at a more standard purple dress. "What do you think about this one?" Yin Yuerong was too lazy to even speak this time, her expression clearly expressing her disdain. Manager Zhang awkwardly withdrew and didn't say anything else. Auntie Chow spoke up from the side. "Madam, I think the 2 styles Manager Zhang recommended are very pretty and suitable for you. Why don't you give them a try?" Yin Yuerong coldly glanced at the other woman. "You want me to wear that?" Auntie Chow was exasperated and was about to speak when Tang Tang declared, having entered at some point in time, "Both of those are ugly. They aren't worthy of my grandma." Auntie Chow reflexively turned to the arrival. "Little young master." After Yin Yuerong saw the little fella and heard what he said, her expression eased a little. Manager Zhang was initially unhappy upon hearing that, but when she saw the speaker was an adorable child, her displeasure dissipated. Children's words carried no harm. "This is..." Manager Zhang automatically inquired. Auntie Chow made the introductions. "This is our little young master." "Little young master? Since when did the Yin family gain a little young master?" She had heard that the Yin family's eldest young master, who'd left home a long time ago, did have an illegitimate child. Could this be that child? However, Manager Zhang didn't dare to delve into other people's secrets, so she quickly greeted him. "Hello, little young master. May I ask which one you like? Which one do you think suits your grandmother? You can help your grandmother choose." Yin Yuerong remained seated and didn't attempt to stop the proceedings. Tang Tang walked to the row of clothes, treading back and forth and surveying everything earnestly as if he was truly sifting through them. In the end, Tang Tang stopped in front of a black gown. Auntie Chow hastily noted, "Little young master, madam already chose this one earlier." Tang Tang shook his head. "I like the dress next to this black one. Grandma will definitely look good in this." "The one next to the black gown?" Next to the black gown was a red woman's suit. The style was trendy but not overly forward, and the embroidery on the neckline and edge of the skirt was very exquisite. Chapter 2394. Bring it over, I will try it on. Manager Zhang's eyes lit up. Little young master's taste is very good. This set is this season's most outstanding product, but this style is particularly polarizing, so normal people wouldn't dare to wear it. If it was you though, madam, you could rock it for sure. However, Yin Yuerong didn't look like she'd choose this dress no matter what based on her personality, which was why the manager hadn't recommended it at all. Tang Tang pattered over to Yin Yuerong. "Grandma, wear this. This one is pretty." Yin Yuerong furrowed her brows. In all fairness, the outfit Tang Tang chose was truly the best-looking one in the entire selection. Her younger self would have definitely chosen it, but now. Yin Yuerong aloofly glanced at the outfit. "Is that so? I don't see anything pretty about it though." Tong Tong's eyes sparkled. "It's pretty. You'll definitely look especially pretty when you wear it, Grandma, like a goddess. Try it on Grandma." "Tang Tang wants to see Grandma wear it." "The color is ugly," Yin Yuerong retorted. "But it's very pretty. Look, Grandma, Tang Tang is also wearing red today." Yin Yuerong stayed silent for half a day before finally saying, "Bring it over. I'll try it on." "Auntie Chiao." Manager Zhang. The two of them never expected Yin Yuerong to actually agree and took half a day to realize what had happened. Yes, I'll bring it over right now." Manager Zhang hastily took the outfit off the hanger. Yin Yuerong accepted the outfit and entered a side room to change. After waiting for an eternity, Yin Yuerong finally finished changing and came back out. The second she stepped out, all the servants in the room froze, their eyes shooting open. Normally, their madam wore purely black clothes and covered herself tightly. This was their first time realizing their madam was so good-looking and elegant. This outfit was truly very selective in its wearer and normal people couldn't tame it. Only someone of Yin Yuerong's age and aura could dominate this outfit completely, so much that her entire demeanor underwent a transformation, and every tinge of bleakness dissipated from her aura. She did appear imperious and domineering still, but she was also bright, beautiful, and vivacious. "Madam, you look so good wearing this." Auntie Chiao involuntarily recalled a younger Yin Yuerong. Manager Zhang also lauded her endlessly. "Little young master's taste is truly too great. This color really suits you, madam. Grandma is so pretty. Grandma matches Tang Tang now." The little fella happily skipped over. As Yin Yuerong stood in front of the mirror and saw her appearance, she almost didn't dare to recognize it. She couldn't remember how many years it had been since she put any effort into dressing up and seriously choosing an outfit for herself. "Madam." At this moment, Zhong hastily dashed inside and was about to speak when he saw Yin Yuerong in front of the mirror. He was startled. He'd never seen Yin Yuerong wear such bright-colored clothing. What was going on? "Don't tell me it was the brat again." Zhong didn't have time to think about it through and quickly reported, "Madam, there's news of an emergency meeting from the Arbitration Council and they require you to immediately head over." Yin Yuerong immediately replied with a serious expression, "Understood. I will head there now." "Madam, the people here to pick you up are waiting outside already," Zhong added. Yin Yuerong was originally planning to change into a different outfit first but changed her mind upon hearing this and started walking outside. "Let's go." Half an hour later, inside the Arbitration Council building's conference room, everyone was fervently discussing business related to Qin Zong when a knock was heard and a woman entered. No one recognized the newcomer at first. When they realized it was Yin Yuerong, nobody could suppress their astonishment. Chapter 2395. Do you really have a heart? Shocked exclamations reverberated throughout the conference room. What's going on? This is Yin Yuerong? This is the first time I've realized Director Yin is so beautiful. Even at her age, I can still see her beauty. She's a lot more charming than those young women. Director Yin was a well-renowned beauty years ago, all right? It's just that she dressed like a widow afterward and looked unapproachable and cold, so everyone forgot. Several older higher-ups were aware of the inside story back then and couldn't help but remark, "Say, what was that guy from the C clan thinking back then? Why would he disregard such a gorgeous beauty with a background and insist on abandoning everything to elope with an impoverished girl from China?" To me, what's hardest to understand is Yin Yuerong, right? With her qualities, what man would be unobtainable for her back then? Why did she vehemently latch onto Si Huaizhang? Her story is too pitiful. When Yi Lingjun heard everyone straying further and further from the topic at hand, he cleared his throat and interrupted their discussion. He turned to Yin Yuerong and said, "Please sit, Director Yin. How are you feeling?" Yin Yuerong nodded curtly. "Thank you for your concern, President. I'm fine now." "Ah, that's good." Yi Lingjun couldn't help but feel suspicious as he said that. Yin Yuerong was a workaholic and had never taken a sick day since she started with the Arbitration Council. One time, there was an assassination attempt on her and she took a knife to her abdomen, but she still attended a meeting the next day with bandages around her waist. This was her first time requesting a day off, and based on what her housekeeper said on the phone, it was a minor illness such as a cold and fever. This was truly surprising. Then, when Yin Yuerong appeared today, she was dressed totally different than her norm, so this was naturally eye-catching. Yi Lingjun couldn't help but wonder why Yin Yuerong was behaving so abnormally all of a sudden. At the same time, another attendee of the meeting today, Si Yihan, was also imperceptibly examining Yin Yuerong. He didn't pay attention to what she wore and was merely trying to assess Tong Tong's situation based on her expression. Si Yihan sent people to covertly scout at the Yin estate and learned that Tang Tang wasn't there and was probably transported elsewhere in secret. He suspected Tang Tang was moved to another manor that belonged to Yin Yuerong, but that manor was under tight surveillance and Yin Yuerong's confidants had full control of the area, so he was unable to obtain any information. After the meeting ended, in the hallway, Si Yihan called out, "Director Yin." Yin Yuerong appeared to have predicted Si Yihan would seek her out, so she calmly turned around. "Do you need something?" Si Yihan cut straight to the chase. "When are you planning to release Tang Tang, Director Yin?" Yin Yuerong aloofly replied, "It's my first time meeting my grandson after all, so I'll naturally keep him for several more days." Si Yihan's face was frosty. "I'm afraid your adopted son won't last several more days." Yin Yuerong mockingly smiled. "Heh, Ajio, I always thought you knew Mom well. Why did you think you could threaten me with Yin Heng?" Si Yihan knitted his brows. Wanwan also said something similar. However, Yin Yuerong had no scruples about replacing him with Yin Heng and cemented Yin Heng's inheritance of the position of family head. She even once risked her life to save Yin Heng, so how could she disregard her adopted son's life? Yin Yuerong retracted her smile and ice enveloped her eyes. "I'm unconcerned about Yin Heng's survival. If you like, you can keep him. Whether you kill or cut him into pieces, do as you wish." Si Yihan coldly stared at the woman in front of him with a bottomless darkness in his eyes. "Yin Yuerong, do you really have a heart?" Chapter 2396, Adding Fuel to the Flames. How could someone be heartless and cold-blooded to this extent? Was there anything she cared about? When those icy words were spoken, Yin Yuerong's spine stiffened. A moment later, Yin Yuerong slowly looked up. "Good son, you finally realized the kind of person your mother is. That's good, isn't it?" Yin Yuerong paused briefly before continuing, "Oh right, I had something to tell you. That child, what's his name? Tang Tang, was it? That little fella truly resembles his mother too much. He's just as disgusting. Don't worry, I will keep him and treat him well." Yin Yuerong. A bone-chilling coldness exploded from Si Yihan's eyes. Without another word, Yin Yuerong turned and left. At the Si residence, when Si Yihan returned, Lin Ke nearly thought the Arbitration Council building was bombed since he had seriously never seen Si Yihan's expression looking this terrible. Lin Ke hid far away before asking, Ninth brother, what's going on?" As soon as Yi Wanwan heard Lin Ke talking to Si Yihan, she rushed over. Lin Ke immediately shuffled over. "Ninth sister, hurry over and ask." Ninth brother's expression is too terrifying. Yi Wanwan slowly walked over and sighed softly when she saw Si Yihan's appearance. "Did you see your mother?" Si Yihan remained silent, and Yi Wanwan knew her guess was close to the mark. "You guys argued, right?" Yi Wanwan was exasperated. "Considering your personalities, it's the same as planets colliding when you meet. It's absolutely impossible for matters to be resolved through negotiation, and that's just adding fuel to the flames." Lin Ke nodded frantically. "Sister-in-law, you seriously know them too well. Si Yihan finally spoke. Sorry. Yi Wanwan gently embraced the man. Why are you apologizing to me? It's not your fault. Having a mother like that was already his biggest tragedy, so how could it be his fault? Si Yihan pinched his brows. Lin Ke, immediately send people to investigate. As soon as you confirm Tang Tang is at Wanmei Villa, dispatch every person there, including the men from Azura. Lin Ke was dumbfounded. Damn. What are you planning, ninth brother? Are you trying to raid them forcefully? Yi Wanwan was also surprised. Yin Yuerong's power can't be underestimated, and this is also Tianshui City, Yin Yuerong's territory. Wanwan, you don't know her. If we allow this to drag on, Tang Tang will be in danger. Yin Yuerong might even detain Tang Tang for the rest of his life, unwilling to release him. Si Yihan absolute wouldn't permit Tang Tang to experience what he did. Upon hearing that, Yi Wanwan's expression also turned grim, and she found herself in a dilemma. She had actually carefully contemplated this before. There really wasn't any reason for Yin Yuerong to detain Tang Tang. As Yi Lingjun said before, her pride merely took a hit, and after a few days of mellowing out with Yi Lingjun mediating things between them, she would likely release Tang Tang. However, Si Yihan was Yin Yuerong's son, after all, and he naturally knew her well. Yin Yuerong probably said something when they saw each other today, which was why he was so aggravated. Fine. After we determine Tang Tang's location, I'll request First Elder to bring some people over too, Yi Wanwan said in the end. She couldn't hold back anymore when it came to Tang Tang's safety. At Wanmei Villa, when Yin Yuerong returned, her expression was exceptionally horrible. Every servant trembled with fear and stayed quiet as a statue. Even Zhong didn't dare to approach. Chapter 2397, Shouldn't Anger a Girl. Auntie Qiao cautiously approached and inquired, Madam, what happened? Yin Yuerong silently entered her study and stayed inside. Sometime later, Tang Tang walked over. Auntie Qiao, where's Grandma? Auntie Qiao was fretting with worry when she saw Tang Tang, her eyes lighting up. Little young master, your grandma seems to be in a bad mood and has been locked up in her room. Tang Tang frowned. Did someone bully grandma? I don't know, Auntie Qiao replied. Even if it was the arbitration council, there wasn't anyone who would dare to antagonize their madam. Auntie Qiao, I'm worried about grandma. Can I go in and see grandma? The little fella asked. Auntie Qiao was hesitant. Zhong walked over with a cup of tea in hand and angrily glared at them. The study is an important place. No one but madam can enter. Auntie Qiao helplessly said, Sorry, little young master. Unless madam gives permission, no one is allowed to enter the study. Zhong harumphed and walked to the study door. He quietly said, Madam, I've boiled calming tea for you. Before Zhong could finish, they heard the sound of a cup hitting the door with a bang and shattering. Scram! Zhong shivered from fright. Yes. It appeared madam was rather infuriated this time. It had been a long time since they had seen madam this angry. Tang Tang frowned deeply and stood in front of the door, gently knocking on the door. Grandma, it's Tang Tang. Can I enter? Zhong immediately glared at him. Little brat, how dare you make this much noise? Do you want to die? Inside the study, when Yin Yuerong heard the child's voice, she involuntarily recalled the child's father and his inquiry today, and she became even more agitated. A second later, the study door was abruptly pulled open. Yin Yuerong stood at the doorway with a dark expression and looked at Zhong. Have you argued enough? Zhong didn't dare to say anything in his fright. Yin Yuerong was irritated. Go to the punishment hall yourself and receive your punishment. Disbelief filled Zhong's face. Madam, I was just worried about your health and boiled a cup of tea for you. It's clearly this little brat who's undisciplined and keeps disturbing you, madam. Yin Yuerong ignored him and peered at the child by her feet. She saw his face, which extremely resembled his father, and her face chilled further. Who allowed you to make a ruckus here? Yin Yuerong was about to launch into a rampage when the child extended his short little arms, a pouty, aggrieved expression on his face as he looked at her tearfully. He childishly said, Tong Tong's worried about Grandma. Hug me, Grandma. In Yuerong. 1 second? 2 seconds? Perhaps it was because his grandmother was ignoring him that the little fella's gaze became more aggrieved. 3 seconds. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. Org In Yuerong bent down and picked up the child. Auntie Chiao, Zhong, what did I just see? Madam actually hugged this little brat. In Yuerong then carried Tang Tang into the study and slammed the door with a bang. After entering the room, In Yuerong set Tang Tang down but didn't kick him out, so Tang Tang pattered over and glued himself to her. The little fella asked with concern, Grandma, why are you sad? In Yuerong was startled. Sad? Why did this child say I'm sad? Grandma, which big meanie bullied you? In Yuerong glanced at the little fella. What if the meanie was your dad? Tong Tong's eyes turned and he replied without a hint of hesitation, Then Daddy is also a big meanie. But how do you know it's your dad's fault? Tang Tang sounded matter-of-fact. Because as a man, he should protect girls and shouldn't anger them. Chapter 2398, Melting Ice. Regarding Tong Tong's answer, In Yuerong didn't know whether to cry or laugh. However, the sullenness enveloping her heart inexplicably dissipated with those child's simple words. The little fella comforted her softly, Don't be angry, Grandma. You won't be pretty anymore if you're angry. Grandma, the plum blossoms are so pretty outside. Tang Tang will go see them with you. All right, In Yuerong agreed. After Tang Tang and In Yuerong entered the room, Auntie Chiao had been anxiously waiting outside the door, worried that Madam would redirect her anger at the child. To her surprise, the two of them walked back out not long later, and In Yuerong's expression was many degrees calmer. It had been cold recently, so In Yuerong glanced at the little fella next to her before instructing her housekeeper, Prepare a thicker jacket for him. Grandma, Tong Tong's health is really good. I'm not cold. It's windy in the plum forest. Thank you, Grandma. Grandma is so good to Tang Tang. The little boy rejoiced. In Yuerong maintained her stiff expression without any other emotion. Auntie Chiao, go and prepare more clothing tomorrow. Auntie Chiao immediately understood. Little young master actually managed to pacify Madam. She quickly nodded and responded, Yes, Madam, I will go and make preparations now. After changing into a thick jacket, In Yuerong and Tang Tang walked to the plum forest. The little fella was wearing a jacket with white fur on the lapels and resembled a snowball as he walked in the snow. Wow. So pretty. Come here, Grandma. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. The little fella was dashing through the forest, but he came back a few steps later, returning to In Yuerong's side. He extended his hand and clutched his grandmother's hand. Grandma, I'll hold on to you. Don't slip. In Yuerong peered down at her hand in the little fella's grasp and lifted it a centimeter but didn't pull away in the end. During their walk, the little fella kept chattering with her, evident that he wanted to make her happy again. Grandma, did you plant all these flowers? Grandma, I'll take a photo for you. Grandma, the snow is so white. It's as white as Great White's fur. Oh right, Great White is a giant white tiger. He's my friend. White tiger. In Yuerong seemed to have recalled something, a hint of somberness creeping into her face. That's right. Great White is really soft and really cute. You'd definitely like Great White if you saw him, Grandma. I'll introduce him to you later, Grandma. Alright, there's also Great Black. Great Black is a black panther. 2 rows of big and small footprints were stamped onto the snow-covered ground, extending into the depths of the plum forest. After In Yuerong and Tang Tang admired the blossoms for a period of time, they returned to the study. This chapter is scrapped from Read Light Novel. Tang Tang had broken a branch of plum flowers and helped In Yuerong place it into a vase on the desk. With the splatter of dark red, the solemn and cold study appeared much livelier. In Yuerong opened a drawer on her desk and pulled out a fountain pen. This pen appeared to have been custom-made with plum blossom prints carved onto the surface. There was also a button on the body of the pen which was equipped with the recording function. Grandma, this pen is so pretty. For you. In Yuerong handed the fountain pen to him. It's to thank you for your plum blossoms. Thank you, Grandma. The little fella happily accepted it and carefully stored it in his pocket. Then he leaned over and smacked a kiss on In Yuerong's cheek. In Yuerong appeared to be unaccustomed to this level of intimacy and her body stiffened. She expressionlessly said, "It's just a pen." Tang Tang seriously shook his head. "It's not. It's a pen given to me by Grandma." The next morning, the minute Tang Tang got up from bed, he noticed there were a lot of newly prepared clothes in his room and one big colorful container on the table. When he opened the container, he realized it was filled to the brim with milk candy, the kind that Tang Tang gave In Yuerong the other day. Chapter 2399. This is the time for growth. In the following days, In Yuerong mainly stayed at Wanmei Villa. Outside Wanmei Villa, the security turned stricter and everyone was on high alert. However, inside the villa, it was a completely different atmosphere. After In Yuerong returned from the arbitration council in a terrible mood, all the servants were certain their next few days would be disastrous. To their surprise, In Yuerong's mood returned to normal at the turn of a head, and she even appeared to be in a better mood than normal. Auntie Qiao was euphoric. She originally hoped In Yuerong would come around to it and quickly release the child, but now she sincerely wished little young master could stay several more days. After little young master's arrival, while Madame might have been as unreasonable as always, she was also extraordinarily patient in front of little young master. Plus, little young master was so adorable, so all the servants in the villa grew to like him very much within a few short days. Since that day, In Yuerong tacitly permitted Tang Tang to enter the study and her bedroom as he wished. Outside the window, the winter sun cast rays of warmth into the room. In Yuerong was handling her business affairs on her desk while Tang Tang quietly stayed nearby and drew. The grandmother and grandson duo was unusually harmonious, displaying the comforts of life. Auntie Qiao softly knocked on the study door. "Madam." In Yuerong called out, "Enter." When Auntie Qiao entered and saw the scene inside, the corners of her eyes involuntarily reddened. "Madam, what dishes would you like today?" "I'll ask the kitchen to prepare them," Auntie Qiao said. In Yuerong didn't look up. Anything is fine. She had never been particular about food. And so, Auntie Qiao turned to Tang Tang. "Little young master, what about you? What do you want to eat?" Tang Tang set down the coloring pencil in his hand and mulled it over before announcing, "Auntie Qiao, I want to eat sweet and sour spare ribs." Auntie Qiao looked troubled upon hearing that. In Yuerong had been a vegetarian all these years, so all 3 meals prepared at the In estate each day were vegetarian dishes without exception. Auntie Qiao looked at In Yuerong and probed, "Madam, how about we ask the kitchen to prepare a meat dish?" Upon seeing the displeasure on In Yuerong's face, Auntie Qiao promptly added, "After all, madam, this is the time that children grow." When In Yuerong heard Auntie Qiao say, "Time to grow," she answered, "You can." Auntie Qiao turned joyous. "Great, I'll go make preparations now." Similar scenes played out in the next few days. As long as it was the little young master's request, In Yuerong might look unhappy, but she would fulfill nearly all of his wishes in the end. "Grandma, you've been working for 2 hours in a row. You need to rest. Tang Tang wants to talk to you." The little fella pattered over to his grandmother. In Yuerong put down the document she was holding. Talk about what? The little fella had basically become her overseer now and insisted on accompanying her when she worked every day. When it was time, he'd urge her to rest and converse with her. At first, she only listened, but later on, she got used to this child seeking her out for conversation and slowly started responding. Tang Tang inquisitively asked, "Were you the one who named Daddy Grandma?" Tang Tang immediately asked another question. "Where did you get Daddy's name? What does it mean?" In Yuerong's expression became dazed. "It was a long time ago, so I don't remember well. It was probably because it was a night in the 12th lunar month when I gave birth to your father, and it was very cold that night." The details of that night were very fuzzy in her memories. The only crystal-clear detail was cold, bone-chilling coldness. Chapter 2400. Cook herself. Tang Tang seemed to be at a loss for words. The night you gave birth to Daddy was very cold, so you called him Yihan One? Grandma, you named him so casually. Yin Yuerong's face was a bit chilly at first, but the corners of her lips turned up with mirth due to the little fella's expression. Is that so? Tang Tang immediately replied, yes. It was too casual. Tong Tong's name was the result of very serious brainstorming by Mommy. Tong Tong's name? Nianeng Xiao. Tang Xiao. Then what's the meaning behind your name? Yin Yuerong inquired. Tang Tang blinked. Guess, Grandma. Yin Yuerong considered it for a moment. Upright and honest and secluded solitude? Tang Tang shook his head and proudly boasted, nope. It's because my mommy particularly liked to eat sweet and sour spare ribs one, so mommy named me Nya Tang Xiao. Yin Yuerong, sweet and sour, spare ribs? Are you sure she didn't name you too casually? That little fella continued to explain to Yin Yuerong, particularly jubilant. Sweet and sour spare ribs is mommy's favorite dish. By using her favorite thing to name Tang Tang, it means mommy really, really likes Tang Tang. Doesn't it sound good, Grandma? Yin Yuerong looked at the little fella's lively expression and sparkling starry eyes, and her own gaze gradually softened involuntarily. It's a very good name. It appeared to be a very casual name, but the meaning actually turned out to be this warm. Tang Tang sighed regretfully. Unfortunately, both my daddy and mommy don't cook well, and the sweet and sour spare ribs they make isn't good. Grandma, do you know how to make sweet and sour spare ribs? When Yin Yuerong heard this, she fell into silence for some reason and didn't say anything. She had nearly forgotten she actually knew how to cook. For Si Huaizhang, she mastered an array of culinary skills. However, he didn't eat anything she made even once. Instead, she ran into him at the office once, eating the boxed lunch that woman made for him. The lunch was poorly made and appeared a little burnt even, but he treated it like a treasure. He even flew into a terrible rage toward her because she knocked over the food that woman made. Ever since then, she hadn't cooked. Tang Tang called, Grandma. Grandma? Yin Yuerong returned to the present. I know a little. Anticipation and admiration filled Tong Tong's face immediately. Really? Grandma knows how to make it? Yin Yuerong asked, you want to eat it? Tang Tang nodded truthfully. I want to eat it made by Grandma. At the same time, inside the kitchen, Zhong was currently blowing his top. What kind of joke is this? You want to make a meat dish? Don't you know Madam has been a vegetarian all these years? It's already good enough that the little brat is receiving a mouthful of food, so how dare he be so picky? I have to inform Madam of this. Auntie Chiao was about to speak when Yin Yuerong's voice was heard behind them. Why did you want to see me? Zhong hastily stormed forward and complained, Madam, Auntie Chiao is getting more and more unruly. She actually wants the chef to cook a meat dish for the little brat? Doesn't he know Madam can't stand the stench of meat? What kind of intentions does she have? She clearly wants to antagonize you, Madam. Yin Yuerong aloofly glanced at him. Who said I told the chef to make a meat dish? The moment Zhong heard that, he became more arrogant. Auntie Chiao, you actually lied to me, saying it was Madam's order. You're seriously gutsy. Auntie Chiao was at a loss. Madam, this, Yin Yuerong leisurely rolled up her sleeves as she said, Auntie Chiao, prepare the ingredients. I'll make it myself. Auntie Chiao. Zhong. What? Madam is actually going to cook herself. Zhong was dumbfounded, unable to believe what he just heard. Chapter 24 1. Who is that gutsy? Inside Si Yihan's mansion, after several days of investigation and preparation, Si Yihan pinpointed Tong Tong's location and determined the situation regarding the security at Wanmei Villa. At the same time, all of their men were summoned and could be mobilized at any moment. As soon as Lin Ke thought about how they were going to attack the scariest place in Tianshui City, Wanmei Villa, he started trembling in fright. Wanmei Villa is the place Yin Yuerong specifically uses to nurture gu, so the ground is filled with poisonous insects and the forest surrounding it is filled with toxic air. No one in Tianshui City dares to approach it? Yi Wanwan said, I requested my brother to have dead man make medicinal pouches. They'll be distributed to everyone later. They can help provide resistance against the poisonous insects and toxic air. As soon as Yi Wanwan thought about how long Tang Tang had been in that frightening place, she burned with anxiety. Initially, she thought Yin Yuerong was merely being prideful and would definitely use Tang Tang to trade for Yin Heng after a few days. To their surprise, Yi Lingjun conducted several probing rounds of negotiations with Yin Yuerong, but the woman remained immovable as a mountain. After all, this was part of the Arbitration Council's territory, so if this matter escalated, the Arbitration Council couldn't ignore it, and Yi Lingjun would be put in a difficult spot then. Hence, Yi Wanwan had been placating Si Yihan the past few days while patiently waiting for news from Yi Lingjun. However, 7 days had passed but Yin Yuerong was still unwilling to release Tang Tang, so they had no choice but to employ forceful methods. Ninth brother, ninth sister, how about we wait until later? It'd be better to go there in the middle of the night, right? Lin Kei persuaded. Si Yihan's gaze remained placid. Inform everyone we're departing immediately. With every second they delayed, any degree of danger could befall Tang Tang. Yi Wanwan looked exasperated. Do you think Yin Yuerong would be unprepared? There isn't any difference whether we go during the day or night. Lin Kei couldn't refute Yi Wanwan. He simply wanted to die. In the end, Si Yihan and Yi Wanwan personally led a team of elites and headed toward Wanmei Villa. At Wanmei Villa, Auntie Qiao ordered people to purchase many fresh ingredients and even prepared an apron. Yin Yuerong changed into a leisurely outfit before washing her hands and donning the apron. Then she started preparing dinner in the kitchen. She couldn't remember how many years it had been since she had cooked. She initially thought she'd be out of practice, but when she picked up the knife, a familiar feeling returned to her. That moment, she realized those memories had never truly disappeared or were forgotten. They had merely been repressed in the deepest depths of her mind. She never expected she'd cook again for someone one day. Since the kitchen was filled with smoke and soot, Yin Yuerong forbade Tang Tang from entering and the little fella could only longingly wait in the dining room. Little young master, madam is cooking already, so be good and play here. It will only be a moment. Auntie Qiao gently reassured him. Okay, Tang Tang replied. After saying a few more words, Auntie Qiao made her way back to the kitchen to continue assisting Yin Yuerong. However, on her way there, someone rushed inside in a panic. Housekeeper Qiao, Housekeeper Qiao. Not good. Auntie Qiao frowned slightly. Why are you making a ruckus? What happened? The man dressed as a guard was panting as he said, Someone's trespassing. And they're very fast, they've arrived at the foot of the mountain already. Auntie Qiao was instantly enraged. What did you say? Who is that gutsy and dares to break into Wanmei Villa? Chapter 2402. Just a little hot. The other party has lots of people and they're all experts. I'm afraid our people won't be able to hold them back for much longer. The guard anxiously responded. Auntie Qiao's expression was chilly. Take me there immediately. I'd like to see who's so suicidal. The guard gulped and cautiously said, Auntie Qiao, I think the leader seems to be eldest young master. Auntie Qiao was startled. Who? It's the eldest young master. And there's a pretty woman next to him, eldest young master and second Miss Nie? Auntie Qiao never expected eldest young master would employ the direct method of forceful trespassing to snatch someone back with his shrewdness. However, it also made sense. Auntie Qiao had been in Wanmei Villa the whole time, so she knew Yin Yuerong actually treated the little young master very well, but outsiders wouldn't think so, eldest young master especially. Who knew how he viewed madam? It was natural he'd burn with anxiety. Eldest young master knew madam too well and knew that since negotiations with madam had proven useless, trespassing forcefully was the only solution left. As Auntie Qiao and the guard spoke, Si Yihan, Yi Wanwan, Lin Kei, and Yu Shao had barged into the courtyard from the back. Lin Kei said, Ninth brother, ninth sister, we'll split up and look. Yi Wanwan nodded. Okay. As the quartet was about to split up their search, A voice suddenly came from the dining room. Mommy! Tang Tang? Yi Wanwan incredulously turned around and immediately saw the little fella wearing a furry cotton-padded jacket rapidly barreling toward her like a white snowball. Tang Tang! Yi Wanwan swiftly darted over and tightly hugged the child. Mommy, Tang Tang really missed you. Sorry. Mommy didn't come earlier. Si Yihan also quickly walked up and the darkness in his face finally dispersed a few degrees upon seeing the little fella's good condition. Lin Ke and Yu Xiao also sprinted over. They were very surprised too. The four of them had secretly plotted for so long, thinking Tang Tang would definitely be imprisoned in the most secure underground prison at Wanmei Villa. Because of this, they researched how to break into the prison for several days and finally came to a solution. Who would have expected them to run into this little fella as soon as they entered the villa? Baby, how are you? Yi Wanwan meticulously examined the child up and down and confirmed he didn't have any injuries. Judging from Tong Tong's complexion and expression, he wasn't frightened in the slightest bit. If she had to make a comment, it seemed like he was wearing too many layers of clothes. Even now, Lin Ke was still in disbelief. Damn, isn't this too easy? This isn't deception, right? Lin Ke couldn't be faulted for thinking like that. Si Yihan and Yi Wanwan were also vigilant. Best to be careful. Yi Wanwan grasped Tong Tong's hand and securely shielded him in her arms. Yu Xiao wore a solemn expression. I'm afraid Director Yin is planning to bait us into her trap and catch all of us in one fell swoop. It was easy for us to enter, but it'll probably be difficult to leave. Yi Wanwan was still questioning Tang Tang with concern. Baby, do you feel unwell anywhere? Baby Tang Tang shook his head. I don't. Tang Tang is very well. It's just, Yi Wanwan was instantly nervous. It's just what? It's just a little hot, Tang Tang replied. The little fella's cheeks were flushed red, and a light sheen of sweat also dotted his forehead, perhaps from running earlier. Chapter 2403. There's a type of cold called, Grandma thinks I'm cold. Yi Wanwan was nervously looking at the little fella's round appearance and suddenly discovered the cause. Baby, aren't you wearing too many clothes? He was basically wrapped into a ball, so how could he not be hot? Although her baby's current appearance was bursting with cuteness. Tang Tang sighed and helplessly replied, Actually, I'm not cold, but they insisted on making me wear this. There's a type of cold called, Grandma thinks I'm cold. Yi Wanwan, Si Yihan, Yu Xiao, Lin Ke, wasn't there something wrong with this situation? Even Si Yihan's brows furrowed. Who made you wear the clothes? Tang Tang replied, Grandma. Grandma was afraid I was cold, so she made me wear more clothes. Si Yihan, Yi Wanwan, huh? Lin Ke repeatedly picked his ears. Did I mishear? Tang Tang hasn't become delusional because he experienced a great shock, right? Yu Xiao asked, Little young master, how did you escape from the underground prison? Did someone purposely release you just now? Tang Tang blinked, his face baffled. What underground prison? Lin Ke asked, Weren't you imprisoned in the underground prison these past few days? I wasn't. I was sleeping in the room next to Grandma, Tang Tang answered. Lin Ke, Yu Xiao, Yi Wanwan, Si Yihan. The more Yi Wanwan heard, the more confused she became. She dazedly turned to Si Yihan. Ajio, what's going on? This was Si Yihan's first time feeling so clueless. He also had no idea what was happening right now. Judging from Tong Tong's words, not only was he not imprisoned the past few days, but he had also lived comfortably in the villa. Yin Yuerong was even concerned about his well-being and made him wear more clothes? Ahem, do you know where your grandma is right now, Tang Tang? Yi Wanwan asked. Tang Tang, Grandma's making dinner for me in the kitchen. Yi Wanwan, what? Lin Ke, it's over. This child was probably too shocked, so his mind became muddled. In the midst of their confusion, footsteps were heard outside of the dining room. The four of them were instantly on guard and turned around. However, what they saw was Yin Yuerong was wearing a light blue at-home outfit with a light pink apron wrapped around her, holding a plate of sweet and sour spare ribs. At the same time, Yin Yuerong also saw the new arrivals in the dining room. All of a sudden, everyone was staring at each other, dumbfounded. Lin Ke, my eyes, are they blind? Yi Wanwan sluggishly replied, you aren't the only blind one. The instant Yin Yuerong saw the newcomers, her face chilled. She truly underestimated the nerve of these people. They actually dared to break into Wan Mei Villa. At this moment, Tang Tang scurried over to Yin Yuerong. Grandma, are my sweet and sour spare ribs done? Yin Yuerong's expression eased. The sweet and sour spare ribs that Yin Yuerong made were tempting in color and its fragrance assaulted their noses. Even Yi Wanwan couldn't resist staring. Wow, Grandma is so awesome. Yin Yuerong appeared to treat these trespassing, uninvited guests like they didn't exist and looked at the little fella. What else do you want to eat? Tang Tang thought about it. Does Grandma know how to make tonghulu? Yin Yuerong replied, I can try. Joy filled Tong Tong's face. That's great. Daddy loves to eat tonghulu. Yin Yuerong, Si Yihan. Chapter 2404, I trust Tang Tang. Although Yin Yuerong acted like a different person toward Tang Tang, her cold demeanor returned as soon as she looked at the others. Yin Yuerong swept her eyes over the guests, without a trace of warmth in her eyes. It appears you lot are treating my Wan Mei Villa as a famous tourist spot and want to come and leave as you please? Si Yihan narrowed his eyes. Yin, however, before Si Yihan could finish speaking, Tang Tang cheerfully interrupted. That's right, the scenery here is super good. And there's a really pretty plum forest in the back. Daddy, Mommy, uncles, you came at the perfect time. We can eat dinner together and go to see the plum blossoms after dinner. Yin Yuerong, Si Yihan, Yi Wanwan, Yu Xiao, Lin Ke, view the flowers? And also stay here to eat dinner? Was that a joke? It was already a miracle if Yin Yuerong didn't chop them into pieces and use them as fertilizer for the plum forest. Yin Yuerong's expression darkened and shifted several times. Tang Tang proudly bragged, you'll be able to taste Grandma's cooking in a moment. Grandma's so awesome. Yin Yuerong's expression changed several times before she emptied herself of emotion. She expressionlessly said, dinner will arrive shortly. Do as you please. Then the four newcomers watched as Yin Yuerong did nothing to them and turned around to re-enter the kitchen. They were stupefied. My God! What does this mean? She's really allowing us to stay for dinner. Lin Ke looked like he'd seen a ghost. Yu Xiao was also somewhat panicked. Ever since stepping inside Wan Mei Villa, things had progressed beyond his imagination. A moment later, all the dishes were served. Yin Yuerong, Tang Tang, Si Yihan, Yi Wanwan, Lin Ke, and Yu Xiao all sat at the same table. Lin Ke and Yu Xiao didn't dare to even breathe too loudly. They were actually sitting at the same table and eating dinner, food that Yin Yuerong personally cooked. Moreover, there was even a red, shimmering plate of tonghulu in the middle of the table. No one would believe it if they told this story. The only calm person around the entire table was probably Tang Tang. Although Yin Yuerong permitted the four people to stay, she completely treated them like air and started eating. The little fella first picked up a piece of the sweet and sour spare ribs for his mom. Mommy, hurry and try it. Yi Wanwan gulped. Sweet and sour spare ribs made by Yin Yuerong. Did she dare to eat it? However, in this situation, it also wasn't good if she didn't eat it right. Yi Wanwan snapped out of it and hastily nodded. Okay. However, as she was about to open her mouth, Si Yihan stopped her with his hand. Don't touch it. Si Yihan evidently didn't trust Yin Yuerong. Si Yihan's little motion naturally didn't escape Yin Yuerong's eye. Yin Yuerong's hand around her chopstick stiffened, and the aura around her chilled instantly. Yi Wanwan sighed with exasperation inwardly. She lowered her voice and said to Si Yihan, I know you don't trust her. Me neither. Yi Wanwan paused and glanced at baby Tang Tang. However, I trust Tang Tang. Moreover, with Yin Yuerong's abilities, if she wanted to poison you, she could do it without alerting you in the slightest. There was no way she'd use such a lowly method like poisoning their food. Then Yi Wanwan lowered her head and bit the piece of sweet and sour spare ribs. Si Yihan helplessly watched Yi Wanwan eat the piece of spare ribs, his chin tightly taut. Yi Wanwan, Si Yihan asked, what is it? Yi Wanwan replied, this is too delicious. Si Yihan. Chapter 24:05, So delicious. Yummy, right? I told you Grandma is awesome. Grandma knows everything. Baby Tang Tang delightfully declared. Next to him, In Yuerong's face softened minutely. Daddy, you should eat too. Tang Tang picked up a piece of simmer-fried fish for Si Yihan. Ninth brother, do you really trust Auntie Rong? Lin K nervously grumbled. Si Yihan didn't say anything and directly ate the piece of fish Tang Tang offered to him, mild surprise appearing on his face. He had thought Wanwan only said that because she was afraid In Yuerong would be angered otherwise. He didn't expect In Yuerong's cooking to really be wonderful. Daddy, is it tasty? Baby Tang Tang asked immediately. Si Yihan was quiet for a long while before finally nodding. In Yuerong was startled briefly, but her expression quickly returned to normal. Since Si Yihan was eating too, Yu Xiao had no choice but to also taste a piece. Damn, you guys are way too gutsy. Anyway, I won't eat it. I wouldn't eat it even if you threatened to kill me. Lin K frightfully shook his head. As Lin K watched the rest of his group appear to eat happily, he whispered, is it really that good? Let me try. Lin K cautiously picked up a piece from a dish, and his eyes lit up. Isn't this too delicious? Auntie Rong's actually this good at cooking? Finally, the whole table started eating for good and all the dishes were wiped clean with Lin K eating the most. So delicious. As Yi Wanwan ate, she kept casting questioning glances at Si Yihan, and Si Yihan could only helplessly say that he'd never encountered a situation like this one. After all, In Yuerong had expressed her loathing and dislike toward Tang Tang in front of him multiple times and even spat out vicious words in the Arbitration Council's hallway that day. However, after personally witnessing it for themselves, the reality was entirely different from their expectations. Tong Tong's reaction couldn't be faked. The little fella had been here for so many days, yet he was stable. He wasn't only stable but his condition was also great and he was well taken care of. In Yuerong even personally cooked for Tang Tang, and she, who never touched meat, actually cooked mostly meat dishes tonight. Furthermore, In Yuerong was clearly on the brink of an explosion earlier, but she actually allowed them over for dinner merely because of a sentence from Tang Tang. Si Yihan's eyes were akin to the deep sea thousands of feet below sea level, hidden currents swirling inside. The In Yuerong before him and the In Yuerong he knew were like two completely different people. However, this only applied to her interactions with Tang Tang. When it came to people other than Tang Tang, she was still that same In Yuerong. Otherwise, he would suspect the woman in front of him was an imposter. What's going on with your mom? I'm flabbergasted. Yi Wanwan anxiously bit the tip of her chopsticks. Perhaps you should ask your son. Si Yihan's gaze landed on the child sitting between In Yuerong and Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan mused over it for half a day before slapping her thigh and saying, Ajio, I know the reason. Si Yihan turned to her. What is it? It must be because my son is too adorable. Si Yihan's expression was indescribable. Regardless of how adorable something was, it shouldn't affect In Yuerong. However, aside from that, he also couldn't figure out why In Yuerong's attitude toward Tang Tang was so strange. What? You don't believe me? Yi Wanwan raised her brows. Si Yihan didn't respond. His expression sufficed as an answer. Yi Wanwan tauntingly asked, Is that hard to understand? Didn't you fall in love with me at first sight because I was also too cute? Si Yihan said, That's not the same. Yi Wanwan grumbled, It's clearly similar logic. Chapter 24:06, Truly like Tang Tang. Lin K whispered, Say, ninth brother, aren't you too gutsy? You actually really ate it. Si Yihan silently glanced at Lin K, the one who ate the most. He never trusted In Yuerong, he merely trusted Wanwan. Tang Tang said, Daddy, this is the tonghulu you like. Yi Wanwan added, That's right, that's right. Tonghulu is your dad's favorite. Si Yihan. And so, this meal passed in absolute harmony, and everyone inhaled the dessert too. After that, Tang Tang really led the group to admire the plum blossoms. Tang Tang exclaimed, "Mommy, Tang Tang will take you to see the plum blossoms." Yi Wan Wan, we're really going to see the plum blossoms? Yi Wan Wan and Si Yihan exchanged a look. Right now, the top priority was to quickly get their baby out of here. However, despite sharing a whole meal together, they still didn't find an opportunity to voice that. They were very aware that they could reluctantly throw a veil of peace over everything, but once they said that, they probably couldn't feign peace even if they wanted to. Yi Wan Wan was preparing to admire the flowers first before giving the matter further thought and suggest it in a tactful manner, but Si Yihan spoke first. Si Yihan said, "Tang, we should head back." Yi Wan Wan could only quietly sigh and hold her forehead. No wonder this mother and son duo had such an awful relationship. The second Si Yihan spoke, the seemingly warm atmosphere popped like a soap bubble that had shimmered under the brilliant sun but was easily destroyed by the wind. Ruthlessness flitted through Yin Yuerong's eyes, and she reflexively turned to look at Tang Tang next to her. Yi Wan Wan sharply detected Yin Yuerong's gaze, changing the instant it landed on Tang Tang. Although that change was nearly imperceptible, perhaps due to her innate maternal instincts, Yi Wan Wan clearly saw a trace of warmth in Yin Yuerong's gaze and even reluctance. At first, Yi Wan Wan also wondered if Yin Yuerong had some secret scheme. With Yin Yuerong's personality, she never liked to act in a circumvent manner and also wouldn't act to the extent of personally cooking for Tang Tang. Moreover, a child didn't know how to deceive people, and Tang Tang's reactions couldn't be faked. He also really liked this grandma. Yi Wan Wan spent half a day to finally digest this truth. Yin Yuerong most likely truly liked Tang Tang. Otherwise, why would she allow Tang Tang to sleep in the room next to hers? Why would she have people prepare clothes for him? Why would she personally cook for Tang Tang? Which meant, Yin Yuerong kept refusing negotiations with Yi Lingjun and was unwilling to release Tang Tang because she didn't want Tang Tang to leave? Tang Tang looked up. "It's time to go back?" Si Yihan coldly glanced at Yin Yuerong. "Or are you saying you want to continue to keep Tang Tang here?" The atmosphere suddenly froze, and Lin Ke and Yu Shao went on high alert. Before Yin Yuerong could respond, baby Tang Tang answered with a matter-of-fact expression, "Daddy, Grandma likes Tang Tang so much, so of course Grandma wants Tang Tang to stay." Si Yihan, when Yin Yuerong heard that, her typically expressionless face actually revealed a trace of stiffness and embarrassment, but she didn't refute Tang Tang's words in the end. Yi Wan Wan saw Yin Yuerong's expression and finally confirmed her guess without a cinch. Hence, Yi Wan Wan cleared her throat and said, "We'll leave it to Tang Tang when he wants to go back. If Tang Tang is happy here, he can stay a few more days. Daddy and Mommy live nearby anyway, so we can come to visit you anytime." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.